Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Friday, February 24th. Ian Cameron will have Alex B. Smith momentarily as his internet is booting up as we speak. Jimmy Murphy, who's with us on Fridays, will join us too a little bit later on in the show around the 2:30 p.m. Eastern time frame. And we've got our every other Friday guest with me here right now, Nate Repensky, who is playing through pain, I'm sure. He had surgery done recently, but feeling better, feeling good enough to return and be with us again here on the Ice Guys show, and he always does a great job every 2 Fridays when he's on with us. Nate, how are things with you?
Yeah, they're good, man. Hanging out in New York, sort of lamenting the end of the NFL season, as we all are. But this is it's hockey time, right? And ultimately college basketball time soon too. So it's fun to have a more focus on those sports, hockey in particular. And yeah, as you said, had an Achilles thing kind of pop up surgery wise, but feeling good now. So excited to get into this weekend slate of games.
All right. So how is the betting board treating you across all sports lately, Nate, and specifically hockey? So hockey on its own and all sports in general. How's it going for you lately?
Yeah, it's been pretty solid. I mean, all sports. I ended the NFL season strong. Kind of rode the Eagles to the Super Bowl and decided to fade them. So sorry if there's any Eagles fans out there, but I had the Chiefs, so that comeback was welcomed. And hockey's been pretty good as well. I've been I think I have a couple of games I like tonight a lot. Things like Minnesota, who's I think gone under in 12 or 13 games. I've been on that. They've been playing stellar team defense, and I think those goal totals started to inflate, given Marc-Andre Fleury's bad play and things. So been riding it out hockey-wise, feeling pretty good of where we're at in the market. And I think always, whether it's NBA, NHL, there's a time when you can get edges pre-All-Star break and sort of post-All-Star break as teams kind of make that push or fall off. And so trying to capitalize on that has been the focus.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And certainly after the All-Star break, there's always going to be teams that come out of the All-Star break revitalized. They flip the switch and they start playing better hockey. And then there's going to be teams that maybe the break came at a bad time. They were playing well and they kind of go the opposite way coming out of the break. Certainly Nashville stands out, although they did win last night. They're a team that's scuffled out of the break. You look at Washington, and we'll start actually yesterday's recap before we get into Friday's card with Washington, because obviously we talked on yesterday's show. Alex Ovechkin's back, heartbeat of the team, the captain, the leader. Would it reinvigorate this struggling Washington Capitals team? And it turns out it didn't. But I don't think it was because they just didn't, want to win and play better with Ovi back. And I think that part of it was there for them. But they had a bomb dropped on them, this hockey team, right before puck drop with that Boston trade involving Dmitry Orlov and, of course, Garnett Hathaway, both going to the Bruins right before the game started. And the moment I saw that trade, well, first of all, you're taking one of your best, defensive-minded defensemen out of your lineup with that trade. And second of all, my second thought was, I've got a bad feeling now about this Washington game tonight against Anaheim, where it looked like it was just this great return of Ovi, and then you get this happening, and it's just a collective feel in the dressing room, in my opinion, that this team was going to be, this management doesn't believe in us. They don't think we can make the playoffs, and even if they did think that, they don't think we can go far, and I think it's a collective morale downer for the Capitals, and I'm not saying that's why they lost to the lowly Anaheim Ducks, but I think it played a part. It was just the collective shock that, whoa, aren't we supposed to be battling for the playoffs? Aren't we supposed to have, guys like TJ Oshie and Alex Ovechkin and Nick Backstrom and Kuznetsov and John Carlson and a bunch of veterans on this team? Aren't we supposed to be still trying to win? And to see that happen right before that game started, I'm like, I don't have a good feeling anymore. And I had a ton of Capitals bets last night. Thank goodness I at least had the first period puck line. That ended up cashing, but the team total fell short. We only got a push with the over, and it was thanks to Anaheim, of all teams, that we got that game to at least 6 goals. It was just, timing was awful, and I think it impacted them a little bit, and it took totally away from the fact that Ovi was back in the lineup for the Capitals last night, as his return still results in no difference in the end result for Washington as they lose yet again to the Anaheim Ducks. Now you have to wonder if this is full-out fade city moving forward to this Washington Capitals team, even with Ovechkin back. They're not going to lose every game moving forward, but they're not a team I'm going to be rushing to put my money on. Nate, we'll start with you. Just the thoughts on that trade, how it affects Washington. Certainly it makes Boston better. How are you going to match up with Boston's blue line right now? Like, that is unbelievable what they've got now at the back end. McAvoy and Grzelcyk and Carlo and Lindholm and Clifton, and now you put in Dmitry Orlov. Poor Derek Forbert's probably going to get bumped out of the starting top 6 now because of this, and he hasn't played bad at all this year. He's played solid. It is a very deep blue line now for Boston. Nate, what were your thoughts on that Bruins Capitals trade?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think you called it a couple of key points, and shout out Derek Forbert is my neighbor growing up. His little brother is one of my best friends. So I'll drop another name on the podcast.
Tell him we feel for him. I mean, he's not going to get as much playing time now. He's probably the 7th defenseman, unfortunately. Now that sucks, but it is what it is.
He's had an awesome year and an awesome time in Boston. But so it'll be interesting how that goes. I mean, yeah, I think it's a great move for Boston to get a depth defenseman with experience, physicality, all those things. I think you call it out for Washington. I mean, to me, it's sort of a changing of the guard in Washington, right? Ovi's obviously still playing at a high level. Some of those guys you mentioned, but they're a little bit in no man's land, and it's certainly not as extreme as the St. Louis Blues. But you start to look at some of these franchises. Washington, Nashville's another, right? I mean, and obviously Washington's won a cup, and Nashville has not. But it's almost time to start to hit the reset button or think like, do we rebuild? What direction do we take next year? Because right now, where they sit in the Metropolitan, I don't blame management for some of these moves, right? It's like realistically, they're probably not a winner this year, and their roster is aging in some ways. So, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Great move for Boston. Excited to see how that transpires and good to see them loading up. We'll see if they make any more, and then ultimately Washington, maybe an odd team out this year, and we'll see how it progresses.
And let me bring Pittsburgh into the mix with that ugly loss last night at home against the Edmonton Oilers. Fire Hextall being chanted in the building near the end of that game. I mean, it was a very angry crowd last night in the Berg, and rightfully so. And now they're caught in the middle right now. What do? Do they sell now? Like, they really have to ask themselves that now after last night. But Crosby, Letang, and Malkin don't want them to sell. And Sullivan doesn't want them to sell. Now there's reports coming out from our guy Rob Rossi, dropped a bomb today on The Athletic, and he does a great job covering the Penguins, that Sullivan is pushing Hextall and the management group to trade for Jacob Chikrin, and Hextall wants no part of the trade. He wants no part of it. He says, we're trying to build this thing long term. So you've got a real clash of different philosophies right now with this Pittsburgh Penguins team. You got Sullivan and the old guard, Crosby, Malkin, and Letang banding together to say, let's go for one last run, one last hurrah. And then you got Hextall saying, well, hold on now. I'm not trading for Jacob Chikrin. We've got nothing in the cupboard. We already are completely barren in terms of picks and prospects. And I'm going to wipe that out even further to try to improve this team to get into the first round and get our ass handed to us by Boston or Carolina. I mean, that's the thing. And it's a pushback going on here. And I think it's creating an unsettling dynamic around this team completely. And as a result, I think it's impacting their focus, performance, and everything else you can think of on the ice. And the one thing I noticed, too, about both teams last night, Caps and Penguins, total lack of team foot speed compared to other teams. Huge problem in today's NHL. When you can't win puck battles, you can't win foot race situations, you can't outskate the other team for loose pucks, you're going to lose a lot of hockey games. And I'm seeing a lot of this with both Washington and with Pittsburgh. And it was clear as day. Team speed, front to back, line 1 through 4, 1 through 6D is lacking with both teams right now. And I think that's playing a role in some of their struggles. Alex, get in on this. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Ron Hextall, was a fiery, competitive goalie, and he's clearly taken that same kind of fireness and competitiveness within the GM role, but it ain't working. And the proof is just in literally what you just said. If you're trying to build for the future, then why on earth did you sign 35-year-old Chris Letang before his second stroke, mind you? Let's just throw that in for shits and giggles. But you signed him to an 8-year deal, a 7-year deal. He's going to expire with 2028. But You're talking about building for the future. Like,
Fucking Padres did this in baseball with Darvish. I mean, they got that guy now into like 43 years old. How do you think he's going to be pitching at that time? It's crazy, some of these contracts.
So a Chychrun deal would help you right now and the future. Like that, it doesn't mean like that sentence right there you just said that basically they're saying like, oh, we're not going to make a deal for Jacob Chychrun because we're looking toward the future. That should get him fired. That right there. The fact that you can't see that a Jacob Chychrun
contradiction of what he did. Yeah.
Right. It will help you right now and long term because you're going to have 39, 40, 41-year-old Chris Letang on the blue line for 3 more years, and you know he's not going to do the same shit he's doing right now. He's having an incredible year right now, and props to him for all that he's been able to battle through and the career that he's had. But you can't rely on your top 3 being around for 20 years and expect to win another Stanley Cup in the next 3 or 4 years. You have a shot right now and probably won't have much of a shot elsewhere because if you're looking long term, let's just quick snap that long term at the Eastern Conference. Boston, a team that we all thought, myself included, was going to fall off the face of the earth right now. They're at the top of the league. And even with their older pieces, their youth is getting stronger and they're adding pieces like Garnet Hathaway. Tampa Bay seems like you can't get rid of this team no matter what. The injury bug be damned. 3 years winning the Eastern Conference. They're still hanging around. Toronto, they can't do shit once it becomes the postseason, but they're still a force in the regular season. Florida, having a bad year, they still got a ton of talent and a lot of guys locked up. There's a ton of teams in the East that are still going to get better moving forward. Pittsburgh isn't going to get better moving forward. Like you said, they have nothing in Scranton Wilkes-Barre. They have been drafting like shit for 3 years. How do you expect to win now and still compete later, holding on to Crosby and Letang and Malkin, and then still not adding other pieces when you've had the secondary guys that you had to bring up throughout the years from the AHL? They've chipped in and then you let them go, or they chipped in and they've just stuck around like Brian Russ and have done pretty much nothing. As you always say, Ian, can't find them with a telescope most nights. So Pittsburgh's just completely confused right now, and I think it is Ron Hextall's fault. He probably should be looking for a new job at the end of the year.
I agree. I think the only thing you can say about them is he might just, the market for Chychrun is immense right now, right? People are going to overpay for him, particularly teams that feel like they can win this year. I agree with you. He helps for the future, but I think Hextall, deserves criticism, but as they look into next year, I mean, he might just be looking to blow things up and feels like it's too big of a rush to do it in season right now, right? Like you look at their decor, they get Chychrun fine. Again, you mentioned Letang, but like their decor is way too thin for a playoff run. I mean, they're not a player away. And again, Chychrun does bolster them. But for me, I'm looking at this if you're Hextall and you just kind of don't have the roster. And so you wonder if a Malkin gets traded in the offseason. I don't know. Maybe they're looking for that direction as opposed to even win now, Alex. But I agree with you. Hextall deserves criticism for sure.
Yeah, it is, because I think he's caught in the middle here. He's the GM. He can't be told what to do by Mike Sullivan. He's supposed to be the GM. Mike Sullivan works for Ron Hextall. It's not the other fucking way around. So if Sullivan's talking about we've got to sign these guys long-term, these relics, including Chris Letang and Crosby, Malkin, and keep things together for 5 years, because that's probably what they want. I know what the dynamic is like. Sullivan's been with this group as a core now for years. They've developed lifelong friendships that will last forever. They've won a Stanley Cup together, this group. I know what that's like. You want to keep the group together? You still think they can play? They think they can still play at a high level, the three of them, the big three, Crosby, Malkin, and Letang. But at the end of the day, you know what? If they're pushing back on Hextall, saying, we got to keep this thing together for at least another few more years. We got another couple runs in us. But if Hextall disagrees, he's got to disagree and go right from the beginning and last offseason and say, you know what? We're starting the rebuild right now. And you don't make that kind of contract extension. And now you don't come back and say to them, when you signed Letang for that big deal, like Alex mentioned, and signed all these other long-term deals in the offseason and in the last few years, now you don't come back when they're asking for help at the deadline to make us a better team and maybe getting Chychrun. Now he's pushing back and he's saying, whoa, hold on now. I don't want to make this deal now because we're already thin with our prospects and our picks, and we want to keep those in-house now and not deal for Chychrun. Well, hold on now. Why the hell did you make those why did you give Chris Letang that contract then? In the off season, if you feel that way, if you feel that rebuild and looking long-term, is the way you want to go about it. So you can't be contradictory in that role, especially in the point of where Pittsburgh's at with their franchise right now. You either have to just say immediately, we're rebuilding this thing right now, starting today. But you can't be hemming and hawing and changing things and giving out that kind of contract to Chris Letang well into his 40s and then come back here recently where Sullivan, Crosby, Malkin, they're saying, hey, we're struggling right now. We need to pick me up. We need an addition to this team. Let's get Jacob Chychrun. Could really, really help this blue line, alleviate the stress. And now Hextall's coming back after signing Letang and saying, well, hold on. Now I care about my picks. Now I care about my prospects. Now I care about the long term and rebuilding this franchise. It's ridiculous. You should have committed last offseason, and now this team is in a horrendous state. Disaster, because they're caught in the middle, and nobody knows what the fuck to do, and nobody can agree on what to do.
Yeah, you're so concerned about the future, but yet you have 31-year-old Brian Dumoulin, who's pairmates with Letang, going to be up at the end of the year, but you still have 35-year-old Jeff Petrie signed until 2025. But you're so worried about the future. Okay, Ron.
This is kind of on Hextall, too. Like, Hextall makes those moves, and including signing Letang, and they're probably thinking, all right, we're clearly going to try to contend this year. And now Hextall, on the verge of the trade deadline with his team struggling, pushes back and says, now I'm thinking about rebuilding. Now I'm thinking about the long term. Now I'm not going to trade for Jake Chychrun because I want to protect the remaining picks and prospects we have. Can't say that now. It's easy to say that, too, when your team sucks right now. I would have loved to have hear him say something like that if they had won 10 in a row going into last night, or if they were playing good hockey. I think it's now just, we're backing up now because the team has fallen flat and doesn't even look like a team that's capable of making the playoffs right now, let alone beating a Boston or Carolina in the first round, which is a gargantuan task, to say the least.
And anyone who's been paying attention to this Penguins team in the last 3 years should not be shocked that this is coming because, like I said, the minor system has been barren for a while. These guys were getting older. Yes, they're still playing at a high level, but you can't rely on Crosby and Letang and Malkin to be the big three the way that they've been for years continuing forward. Even this year, you still need secondary pieces. The teams that won that back-to-back run, it was because of all of the secondary pieces that chipped in. You just think these guys are just going to automatically turn it on and run through a postseason, especially when you can't keep a goaltender healthy in the last couple of years. I mean, it's absurd.
I think Hextall at this point, though, like he made the wrong bets, right? I mean, he thought that they'd sign these guys that have a chance to bolster a postseason run, and like we can criticize him for that, but he's now taking a hard stand and he doesn't want to dig the hole any deeper, right? He's like, hey, listen, I've lost, $5,000 at the blackjack table tonight. Do I want to lose $10,000 and trade everything for Chychrun, or should I just go home? And I think he's going home. Like that's my analogy. And it's probably unpopular because he should have made the call earlier and he made the wrong bets. But I just think right now, if you pay for Chychrun with the market out there for him, you're going to get robbed. And if you're not in a spot to add that piece to go over the top for the playoffs, why do it now? I don't know. I also don't think Malkin's in a Penguin sweater next year. I think they're going to make some big changes.
They're gonna have to, because they have to do something to try to rebuild. But now you run the risk of you sign them long term, and now if you make that deal and move Malkin, now do you piss Crosby and Letang off? Or do you rub Sullivan the wrong way? Does Sullivan get frustrated and say screw it, and then he hops up and leaves? You're playing a dangerous game. Like I said, these were things that didn't have to happen because even when you wanted to keep the core pieces together, you still should have had a contingency plan to be like, hey, if this season doesn't work out, we can get out of this with a little bit less damage, lessen the blow a bit. And they didn't do that.
And the last thing I'd say is I think you've seen teams artfully do this preemptively better than Hextall, right? He probably didn't want to take any risks, but you've seen teams like Tampa, like Chicago back in their heyday, right? They've gotten rid of guys at their peak or before they fell off to sort of reload and keep that team continuity and that upward trajectory going. I think if you're Hextall, it's like you just waited too long. You waited too long. You maybe should have gotten rid of a Malkin a year and a half ago. You get a higher return and you reload, and now you're sitting on just sort of dead pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect with what Hextall. Apparently, they were on the same page last offseason with what Hextall was doing, and obviously Sullivan, Crosby, and the main veteran core are on board too. Let's go for it. Let's try to win next year and be a contender. But it's just amazing that now things are falling apart. Teams playing poorly on the ice. And now all of a sudden, now Hextall cares about the draft picks and the prospects and looking at rebuilding and not going to trade for Jacob Chychrun. It's just convenient timing now to change trajectory, which you shouldn't do because you committed to winning. And now all of a sudden, now you want to blow it up. And now you're in an even worse state right now because now there's this big collision of thought processes going on with the players and Sullivan versus Hextall. And it's a bad dynamic. It's just bad. It's all around. It's a very, very bad situation. It's terrible right now for Pittsburgh. I feel bad. This franchise is damned now, I think, for the next 5 to 10 years.
I don't feel too bad about it, to be honest. And not saying that, and I'm not saying that because they've won and they've been, a pillar of the East for years to come. But I mean, because like, how do you work in this organization and not see this coming? Like we literally talked about this in early October. We talked about this last year about how at some point this team's going to have not even about the let's forget the big three for a second. We were talking about how there's no depth to where if they have injuries, which they often do, they can't even stay afloat if a bunch of guys go down. And this is something we've seen throughout the Penguins' dynamic run. We've always talked about how if Crosby gets hurt and misses 10 games, Malkin gets hurt and misses 8 games, Letang gets hurt and misses, a month, 2 months. It's not that big of a deal because these guys miss games every single regular season. It's just as long as they're healthy and come back in April and May, then they can make a run and do something. But they had pieces to plug in that could keep them afloat during the regular season. They don't even have that now. And so when the regular lineup just sucks, they just suck. They're just bad, and they go on these losing streaks like we've seen lately. So it's just really weird. They're in such a weird position where they can't even help themselves now, and it really doesn't seem like they're going to be able to help the organization in a shorter term. It's going to have to be a longer term rebuild, and then when they do get rid of the big three, things are going to get even worse. So yeah, it's looking pretty bad. But they set themselves up for this disaster 2 years ago, really. Yeah,
it's Vancouver East, essentially. They've delayed the rebuild too long in both cities. And, they try to contend for too long. And they should have started the tear it down process 2 years ago in Vancouver. They didn't. And they should have started it probably after last season at the very least. If not, you could argue the year before that in Pittsburgh, and they didn't. And now they're really up against it because, again, they have no draft capital. I mean, their prospect and pick cupboard is bare right now. So no wonder now there's pushback from Hextall and trying to trade it, but he's going totally against what he did. But tough times there for sure. All right, quickly last night, and then we'll finally get to Friday's games. We got 6 games tonight, but just quickly last night, great win for the Buffalo Sabres, 6-5 over Tampa. They had the lead, they coughed it up, but they won in overtime. An incredible performance. Another one from Tage Thompson. He's had a bunch of these this year. Another hat trick for him against a great Tampa Bay team and the best goalie in the league. To be able to do that was something sensational. No question about that. And of course, Buffalo gets the 6-5 win last night in overtime. So a great win for the Buffalo Sabres last night. Now they play Florida tonight. We'll get to that in just a second. We talked about Anaheim, Washington, Edmonton, Pittsburgh. I mean, that was just Edmonton is at one level. Pittsburgh's at another level. 7-2 last night. Oilers over the Penguins. We saw New Jersey come back to beat LA to my chagrin as I was on the Kings, but I did have the over, so that did cash. 4-3 Devils. Dawson Mercer props. We've talked about that repeatedly on this show. They keep on cashing it. A goal and point prop again on Dawson Mercer comes through for New Jersey in that 4-3 overtime comeback win against LA. Minnesota shuts out Columbus too. Now they give Fleury credit. Marc-Andre Fleury needed a response. Philip Gustafson has taken the net from him lately, and he needed a good performance here, the front end of that back-to-back, and he did a 30-save shutout to beat Columbus last night. 4-1 Detroit over the Rangers. Man, that was impressive. Brutal spot off a long road trip, including a stopover in Washington, and you come home and you still beat the Rangers 4-1. Man, was that impressive. Husso extremely good in that game as well. Detroit is rolling along right now. Like, we need to start thinking Detroit could make the playoffs. Hell, they're in a playoff spot right now. Second wild card spot right now in the Eastern Conference. Vancouver comes back to beat St. Louis 3-2 in overtime. 4-3 Vegas in overtime to beat Calgary. Calgary ran out of gas on the second night of back-to-back games. Nashville beat San Jose 6-2. Disappointing effort from San Jose. The game did go over, though, which was good for me. And how about being on the Bruins in regulation last night? My goodness. You thought there were multiple times up this game's done. Oh, especially when Seattle took the 5-4 lead late in the third. You thought, that's over with. They'll probably lose the game, and even if they tie it, it'll go to overtime. Well, bam, they strike right back, 5-5. Nobody could hold a lead for more than a minute. in that game last night, Bruins and Kraken. And then, of course, Jake DeBrusk with the deflection goal with about a minute and change left, 6-5. And Bruins in regulation bettors, which I was and Alex was, we get rescued with a late game win there for the Boston Bruins in that game. And yes, it's going viral. It's obviously that's been played a lot, I'm sure, on various places. But we've obviously got to get the sound here of Mr. Berube from last night. Not a happy man with his Blues.
But a lot of our best players not doing the job.
Why do you think that's the case?
I don't know. You have to ask them, Jim. I guess they don't care about the team. I don't know. Not sure why.
You
Inspired by it, and they should go out and play. Yeah, for sure. They should be very, very happy that we got this guy on our team and that he's laying it on the line. And they should be inspired by it, and they should go out and play with inspired. Our best players don't play with any passion, no emotion, and no inspiration at all. They don't play inspired hockey. You cannot play in this league without emotion, grit, and being inspired. They're getting paid lots of money, and they're not doing the job. End of story. That's it. That's what it boils down to.
And he just gets up and walks away right there. That was Craig Berube there. Not happy last night after the look. I get the frustration, right? This is a guy that's been on a team that's been good the last few years, that's won a Stanley Cup, and he sees things are falling apart. They're not going anywhere. I think he was blowing off steam last night. It just came to a head and he erupted and he lashed out. But this could be either the team somehow, responds to this, or it could even send them even further the other way in the wrong direction. And it's a weird time to, really rip the team publicly because they've just gone through a lot. They've seen Tarasenko traded away. They've seen their captain, Ryan O'Reilly, traded away. They realize they're not going anywhere. They're a much worse team without those two guys. And you see the struggles on the ice. And I don't know, like normally when we hear a coach light into the team like that, we like to bet on them the next game. I'm not so sure that's an automatic for me. The next game against Pittsburgh. It's actually a Saturday ABC game tomorrow afternoon. How about that? Penguins are reeling, Blues are reeling. Someone's got to win that game. How about loser gets relegated to the AHL? How about that for Penguins and Blues tomorrow on ABC? Hope Bob Wischusen and Brian Boucher have fun with that dumpster fire of a game we have tomorrow on ABC. But nevertheless, that one to me, I get it. He's angry. But what are you going to do? I mean, you traded away some of your best players. He's talking about his best players. Yeah, your best players aren't with the Blues anymore. That's kind of the issue. Your best players now, though, they're supposed to be Jordan Kyrou. They're supposed to be Braden Shen. They're supposed to be Robert Thomas. And I think that's who he was talking about. Saad even, you could say as well. Those guys were invisible last night in the game against the Vancouver Canucks. Invisible. Couldn't find them with a telescope. So I understand why he was pissed. They did nothing in the game. The only players that played hard were the third, fourth liners that like he said in the press conference, and Binnington had a pretty good game. He's the reason actually the Blues got a point in that game against Vancouver. So an upset Craig Berube. I think he's not just upset about his top guys, and I think he had a right to last night with the way they played, but he's upset about the whole fucking situation. It's a team that's been winning, won a Stanley Cup, and now they're going down the sinkhole. And he's just lashing out. Alex, what did you think of Mr. Berube last night getting a little angry?
Well, first and foremost, if you're waiting for Brandon Saad to produce consistently, you might as well make your last arrangements and plans now because that ain't happening anytime soon. But this Blues team is a mess. And it's, like you said, the injury bug has hit them hard a little bit. But there's been mostly inconsistencies. And like you said, it starts on the back end. It starts with Jordan Binnington. He gets hot, then he gets cold. Thomas Greiss was certainly not going to be Ville Husso 2.0. In fact, he's barely Thomas Greiss from 3 seasons ago. So that's been a really rough bump for them to kind of overcome. And like you said, there's a St. Louis team that, they've had that same core for a while, and they started to kind of fall apart at the same time the other teams in the division were getting better. Winnipeg and Dallas, of course, Colorado on the rise. Minnesota's always kind of given them, tough battles, even though they've come out on the right side of them more often than not. But having that, they've been battle tested for so long that they've kind of worn down a little bit. It's not in the same vein where we see like a LA or Pittsburgh or even Chicago after their dynasty runs, but it's got that same kind of ending feel where it's like, the steam and momentum they had when Berube took over, it's certainly not what it is right now. It's if anything, it's the opposite of it. So things are just they're going through the motions. This is going to be a rough finish to the end of the season, but I don't think they're ready to just completely blow this thing apart, fire Berube, and start from scratch. I think they still have time to, in the long term, to kind of keep things afloat and still be a playoff contender maybe as early as next season.
Not a hard rebuild, but a
soft rebuild.
A soft rebuild is what they say, or a fast track rebuild is, I think, the term that they're using for it. But I think that's probably more in the cards for the St. Louis Blues than anything else. Nate, what did you think of the eruption of Craig Berube last night?
Yeah, it's interesting timing, as you know. I mean, maybe they turn it on now. I mean, you look at what was it? When they won the cup, they were in the cellar. Pretty deep into the season, they turned it on. Obviously, there's a little more time than is left now. So maybe there's something there. I don't think they make the playoffs. I don't think he expects to. I think it might have been a message too. I mean, you look at their decor. I mean, a lot of veterans on this team, right? Bertuzzo, Justin Falk, Torrey Krug, Nick Leddy, Colton Parayko, Marco Scandella. These guys have been here. And maybe questioning the leadership there from that group. I mean, they probably expected to get a lot more from a Nick Leddy. I don't think Justin Falk has been what they've expected since he's been there. So, yeah, it's tough. And then you trade away O'Reilly, who's probably their leader, right? I mean, was the captain and obviously a heart and soul type of player. Tarasenko, who scores. I think they're thin up front. And Robert Thomas is, coming into his own. Jordan Kyrou is great, but I don't know if they can carry a team yet. So I think looking forward, I don't think the Blues make the playoffs. I think Berube, if anything, was setting the tone for the rest of the season. But as they go into next season, particularly trying to get this thing going in the right direction so they don't blow it up. If I was the Blues, I maybe see them dishing, though, a Torrey Krug or a Nick Leddy to somebody at the deadline who wants a power play defenseman. Why not reload and get rid of some of those guys with where your season's at? So, it's interesting, but, I don't think it's going to turn their season around. I think it's too late at this point, and they've obviously already earmarked themselves as sellers.
Yeah, Nate, that's a very good point you made. And in talking about this fast track rebuild, they have the pieces to offload right now in the next week that could certainly help them out as far as making deals and rebuilding for the future. And like you said, it's an older blue line. This blue line in 2014 probably doesn't give up more than 25 shots a night, but it's 2023, and these are some older guys, and they're still talented. But you can't piece 6 veterans together and just expect to have a great blue line. You need some speed and some youth there. They don't have it, but they can certainly help out some other teams and help their rebuild now, making some moves.
Totally.
Yeah. You know what about that blue line? And you're right. You know what's also the thing? He's playing, I think, still pretty decently, but I think they expected Colton Parayko to be that huge, big-time number one defenseman with after Pietrangelo went to Vegas, and it hasn't all really happened. We're finding out Parayko's a pretty good defenseman. He's not that elite defenseman. He's not. And I think they don't have anyone really of that ilk right now. And you're right, Leddy and Krug, I think at this point, Barbashev's on the trade block. There are a lot of players that I think are going to be open for discussion and open for trading from Doug Armstrong, the GM of this Blues team. There's no question about that. And it's funny you mentioned that, Alex, about the blue line. It would have been a good blue line in 2014. That's like the Charles Barkley line that he used to describe the Lakers roster last year. They would have been a hell of a team in 2010. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's all-star. Right. 2010 All-Star team, but it's 20, 13, 14 years later. So.
Yeah. I can't believe, I mean, just to say it too, I mean, I don't remember the exact cap situation at the time, but what the relationship was between player and team and GM, but letting Pietrangelo go was crazy to me. I remember when that happened, I was like, I can't believe it. And like, you look at Parayko, huge shot, big player, but he's not close to that sort of pedigree in my mind, in terms of a puck moving defenseman or anything else. So it's just one of those moves.
I thought he wanted to leave. He wanted to change the scenery too. It wasn't all cap.
I think he did. I think it was a mutual parting. Like he wanted to explore.
He wanted to
paying him long term, but
fair enough. Fair enough. It's just a head scratcher when you look back. But,
and who I think most people would rather be in Las Vegas than St. Louis.
Yeah,
just be honest.
It just
depends what kind of nightlife you like.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where he is right now. Jimmy Murphy is with us. Jimmy, we will get you to Friday's card. We will get to Friday's card in just a few moments. There was a lot to talk about. Last night was a crazy night with the Capitals trade, with the Penguins stuff rumbling around, with the Chychrun story there. The Bruins, Jimmy, as you know, in a crazy game with the Seattle Kraken last night. We're talking about the Craig Berube eruption in the press conference last night. Whatever you want to talk about, Jimmy, floor is yours.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that, well, first of all, I'm still recovering from that game last night, that Seattle Bruins game. I mean, that was That was a wild one. That must have been. I wasn't doing much betting because I was covering it, but man, that must have been a fun live betting game. The way that was going,
No
just
doubt.
a seesaw affair there. But yeah, a great win for the Bruins there, gut check win. And as far as that trade goes, look, I think Don Sweeney deserves a lot of credit there because he was able to get basically what he wanted, and that was a gritty forward and a gritty defenseman. And he didn't give up Fabian Lysell or Mason Lowry, his two top prospects. I mean, yeah, he gave up a lot of picks, but that's the way the market is right now. But the fact that he was able to keep his prospects, I think, was huge. And the Bruins have to be one of the most balanced teams right now as we go down the stretch run.
I love that he didn't give up any of the prospects, because if you see those prospects that you mentioned, Jimmy, developing, getting better right now in junior and the minors and wherever they are currently, then you don't want to part ways with them. Whereas, yeah, you parted ways with a lot of picks, but you don't know if you keep those picks, if you're going to make the right picks and the player is going to turn out, at the end of the day. So I like that philosophy. Throw more picks.
And he sucks at drafting
the prospects. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, Don Sweeney has a bad track record when it comes to drafting. So really, I mean, no offense to him, those picks aren't worth anything to the Bruins because he doesn't know how to draft. So it's a great move for them right now.
Absolutely. Definitely it was. No question about that. So, yeah, Bruins busy on the ice and off the ice last night. Certainly the trade with Washington and, of course, getting the win against the Seattle Kraken last night, 6-5, a crazy game that was. All right, now we will finally turn the page here to Friday's card. 6 games. We'll begin with Minnesota and Toronto. We've got the Leafs minus 220, home favorites here, 6 being the total in this game. I think it's a tricky game from a side perspective. I mean, certainly Toronto's got the rest advantage, but Toronto's coming off a pretty easy thumping of the Buffalo Sabres, where that game was pretty much over after the first period when they were up 4-0. They were just red hot. The O'Reilly hat trick, which was just an incredible development. Minnesota's on a back-to-back, tough spot, but they're playing better. They've won 4 in a row. They've righted the ship a little bit, and they've done it with their defense. I mean, the shutout Columbus, they've given up just 2 goals or less in consecutive games now. Marc-Andre Fleury, like I said, in net, getting an opportunity. That was a big start for him, important, with Philip Gustafsson starting to get more starts lately because of his recent struggles for Fleury, but he answered the bell. A great performance, 30-save shutout against Columbus last night. Tonight, though, it'll be back to Gustafsson. He's been great. 4-0-1 in his last 5 starts, a .946 save percentage during that time. But they are, the team on the back-to-back on the road. You worry if they fatigue a little bit down the stretch. Toronto's played Minnesota pretty well. They've won 4 of the last 5 meetings, including 2 straight here in Toronto. I think Toronto probably wins the game, but I'm not comfortable laying minus 220 with them. The total could go either way, too. Toronto's trending over. Minnesota's trending under. So I don't want either total, over or under in this game. I could see it going either way. But I do like a bunch of props. We like Ryan Hartman over shots on goal. He's trending up in that direction since he's been on the top line. We like Ryan Hartman to get a point, plus 120. Even though Terry's a wild homer, I'll co-sign that bet. Ryan Hartman plus 120 is a great bet. He's piling up the points right now, recent games since moving to the top line. It's a great value there to look in that direction. William Nylander over shots on goal over 3.5 is a good bet in this game. He keeps on trending over his shots on goal number. He's tailed off the last couple, but I'm going to give it another go with Eriksson Ek over shots over 2.5 here because it's only minus 120. I like that. O'Reilly, you got to lay juice, but I think it's juice worth laying at minus 175 for over 1.5 shots. Since he's been a Leaf, he's been firing the puck quite a bit. He only needs 2. So, yeah, you're laying a big price, but he only needs 2 shots on goal to cash that ticket. And I think it's got a good chance of happening here in this game. But, yeah, those are the main props there for me. A few shots on goal props and anything to do with Ryan Hartman right now. Goal prop, but especially that point prop and the shots on goal prop for Ryan Hartman. Both of those are a good look. Alex, what do you think here? Wild Leafs.
This game screams draw, and it screams draw in the sense of where Toronto can hop out early, and then Minnesota finds a way to claw back late. We see that, Toronto meltdown, but I don't think it's going to be a full melt. I do think they end up winning the game. So not taking a shot here with the Wild on the money line. I'm just going to go with the draw at plus 365. I definitely think this could be one of those back and forth kind of battles. And the Wild desperately need points to hang on against anybody. And same thing with Toronto. Like I said, with Toronto, we've seen them in these big favorites at home kind of start off a little bit slow. I think they get off to a good start, but I don't know if they're going to be able to complete a full 60-minute beat down of this Wild team, especially with Gustafsson, how well he's played in net. And Gustafsson, did have some time in Ottawa, is familiar with Toronto. We know how the Sens always played the Leafs kind of tough. So I think that'll be, something that can kind of keep the Wild in this contest. So this will be a good live game, looking for a lot of back and forth scoring. But essentially, I think this goes past 60 minutes, so I'm going with the draw.
And of course, Alex is the draw king here on the Ice Guys show. But I want to mention something. It is draw season. We got to get the hashtag trending on Twitter.
Absolutely.
Draw season. Last night, 10 NHL games, 4 cashed the draw. Okay, 4 games went to overtime or a shootout. And that's not to mention Boston, Seattle coming this close to going to overtime. Anaheim, Washington coming this close to going to overtime. So there actually could have been 5 or 6 games that went beyond regulation last night. So if you had sprinkled a little something on the draw in all 10 games last night, even with just 4 cashing, that's a hefty profit on the night. No question about it. You are profitable. So we are seeing it. Games are becoming more important. Points are becoming more valuable, even more of a premium on getting at least 1 point in the bank. And as a result, we're seeing more games at post-All-Star break going beyond regulation here. Jimmy, we'll go to you next. What do you think here? Minnesota, Toronto. Jimmy's definitely traveling right now, as we can tell. We know he's in his car, so I think we've lost his connection for a bit. We'll see if we can get him back. Nate, what do you think here? Wild are your team. What do you think here? Wild Leafs.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, I think it's too steep for me to, consider taking Toronto. I think, as you said, they've had some letdown spots here. I think I saw it when I woke up this morning at under 6.5. I think it's now 6. I think you can still get 6.5 at a reasonable price. It's a little bit juicy. I just look, the Wild have gone under in 12 or 13. I know the Leafs have the potential to be an offensive juggernaut, but the Wild, Gustafsson, we mentioned he's been good. In addition, the Wild are on a back-to-back. You kind of focus on defensive principles and in games like that, keeping it very simple. And then the Wild are also so low in terms of creating 5-on-5 chances relative to the rest of the NHL. They're one of the worst teams. They just don't have a lot of scoring depth. So for me, I maybe look at under 6.5 if I'm looking to lean. I don't love it. I also like Alex's play on the draw. Minnesota's been in overtime and shootouts pretty frequently lately. Again, they're clawing for every point. So I think, plus 300 or what was it, 340 maybe on the draw is a good look. But I don't have a hard play on this game. If anything, I'd lead buying up to maybe under 6.5 or, the under 6.
All right, Buffalo, Florida. Florida minus 200 home favorite, 7 the total in this game. I ended up sprinkling on Buffalo last night, and I mentioned on the show I was tempted to take a shot with them against Tampa Bay, small shot. I didn't love it because I just didn't love the way their current form had been in Tampa Bay. Obviously, we know how good they can be at home, but at the same point in time, it's a situation. Jimmy, can you hear us? Jimmy says he's here.
Yeah, can you hear me?
All right, we got you back. Yeah,
Me?
it's just we asked you about the last game, and we didn't get any audio from you, but you're back. Okay, Minnesota, Toronto, Jimmy, go ahead.
I'll make it quick. I like the under, and I like the Leafs in the first period.
All right, good
On the
stuff
puck
indeed.
line.
We'll go to Jimmy first with Buffalo, Florida here this game. I'm going to sprinkle on Buffalo, but this is a really dubious spot for them. I do want to point that out. Like, they emptied the gas tank to beat Tampa last night. They had the lead. Tage Thompson with the hat trick. They hung on. Tampa tied it eventually, and then they won it in overtime. This is a very, very difficult Buffalo spot, but they have just been ridiculous here in terms of this road underdog role and spot and price against better hockey teams.
Mm-hmm.
Their resume against teams on the road, that who they've beaten on the road? I'll go through the list again. Colorado, Vegas, Washington, Pittsburgh, Boston. These are really good teams they beat on the road. Obviously, Tampa Bay last night. It just on the road trip that they had, they went to Dallas, they won. They went to St. Louis, they won. They went to Nashville, they won. I mean, they have just been absolutely outstanding, the Buffalo Sabres. This is just all season. This has been their role. Road underdogs against average or better hockey teams. They've just been money in the bank. They've been phenomenal. So for that reason, even though there's a really, really worrisome spot back to back on the road after just a thrilling win last night, you worry where they celebrating and do they fall flat today? But I'm going to take a small bite on Buffalo plus 170. I'm going to bet over 6.5 live. Like I say, I'm staying away from 7s. I'm waiting for 6.5 in game when it shows up. And props in this game, there are a bunch because I think we'll see some goals both ways. We're going to see obviously Sergei Bobrovsky in net. for Florida. You would think with Comrie and net last night, we'll see either UPL or Craig Anderson here tonight for Buffalo, but it hasn't been confirmed. As far as the props, though, in this game, I'm on Sam Reinhart for Florida, over shots to score a goal and get a point. Anything Sam Reinhart for Florida is worth a look. He's facing his former team, the Buffalo Sabres. He's been shooting the puck a ton of late. It's a really good prop look, in my opinion, here tonight for this game. Anything Sam Reinhart. Now, the point prop's too expensive. You've got to put that in an SGP. The goal prop plus 175 is not a great price, but I think he probably finds the back of the net here against the Sabres tonight. And definitely the shots on goal, which is over 2.5, minus 145, minus 150. Definitely Sam Reinhart, one of my favorite player prop looks here tonight for this game. On the Buffalo side of things, we've got obviously Thompson had the huge night. He's gotten a point in 4 straight games for the Sabres. So if you want to bet that, again, you got to put it in a SGP because you're going to have to pay a price for it, betting it on its own, because Tage Thompson to get a point by itself is minus 200. So that actually could be a good prop tonight. Do a Tage Thompson point prop parlayed with Sam Reinhart point prop, and you'll turn it into a even money or plus price. I think that's pretty good for this hockey game tonight with Sabres and Panthers. But yeah, Reinhart here for Florida. By the way, for Florida, another reason why to be concerned about them laying this price, even though Buffalo's on the back-to-back, there's no Sam Bennett, there's no Alex Barkov tonight for the Florida Panthers. So 2 major injuries here for Florida. No Barkov, no Bennett for them tonight in this game. That means the center ice position's a little thin tonight. Lundell, E2, Cool, Mint, Luostarinen, Eric Stahl, and Colin White become the 4 centers tonight for the Florida Panthers. I think it's probably one of those nights, too. One thing about Buffalo, they still give up a ton of shots. So if you want to look not only at Reinhart over shots, but the usual suspects, Verhaeghe and Tkachuk and others, you could go with their over shots on goal tonight as well. Probably worth a look. Montour point, worth a look. Ekblad, we've talked about his shots on goal prop. That's probably a good bet, too. Buffalo, Dylan Cousins, point and goal. I'm always interested in that. He's undervalued. Tuck over shots on goal. We've talked about that quite a bit. Dahlin over shots on goal. Maybe them to get a point in some form. Tuck to get a goal because he's been heating up lately. Really good prop game. I'd be looking at all the props that I just mentioned there. Jimmy, what do you think here? Sabres, Panthers.
You got me?
We got you.
All right, good. Look, they coming off a dramatic win there, the Sabres, that is, last night, and probably got in a little late. I know it's only a short hop over to Southern Florida, but I got to go with the Florida Panthers in the first period here on the puck line to come out and take advantage of a tired Sabres group. That being said, I could see the Sabres climbing back into this, and I'm actually going to pull an Alex draw here, and I think they do that, and they tie it up, and they send it to overtime. So I'm going to go with a first period on the Panthers puck line, and then I'm going to take the draw as well.
All right, there you go. First period, puck line, Florida, and the draw for Buffalo to battle back here in this one. You're right, the travel is minimal from Tampa to Florida. You know, it is a short trip, so that's the thing that does help the Sabres here in this back-to-back spot. And like I said, Florida's depleted up down the middle at the center position. No Barkov, no Bennett. So, yeah, there's definitely some shuffling for Maurice now in terms of the center spot tonight going into this game. Alex, what do you think here, Buffalo, Florida?
Yeah, as long as the Sabres didn't go hang out in that strip club that Florida's hanging out after between Game 3 and 4 last postseason, they should be fine. Shouldn't be any issues for the Sabres. But I also think Florida comes out hot early. I like the first period over in game. I don't want to lay $1.05 with 2. I think we'll have enough time to where this can come down. We can grab $1.35, $1.40 with that 1.5, and they can go over. But I expect a little bit of fatigue from Buffalo as well. But they could. Like I said, they have that kind of momentum. And also, Florida is not the team you can trust to play a full 60-minute game to keep a heavy lead against a good Buffalo team, a good offense. So I also lean with the draw here as well. So I'm going to go with that first period over, wait in game to grab that. But I'll have a little bit of the draw, too, at I've seen as high as plus 390. So shop around and grab that.
Yeah, definitely. I think those are good looks, no doubt. What do you think here in this one, Nate?
Yeah, I look to the over. I think I like your play of grabbing it. Maybe you get a first couple minutes scoreless and grab over 6.5. I'd maybe even take 7. I just do like it. I think when you look at Barkov and Bennett out too, those are 2 defensively responsible players, particularly Barkov, right? And so I think that from a penalty kill perspective, obviously they bring offense to Florida, but I think they bring, a lot of defense from the front, and Florida obviously struggles to defend. So for me, I like over 6.5. I'd play it to 7. I think you potentially get a push there. Florida's gone over in such a high percentage of their games lately. Their offense is a juggernaut. I think Buffalo sneaks a few, so I like the over. Grab it live, probably at 6.5 in game if you can, and then I'd even take it 7 too.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we're going to see a fair share of goals here tonight. You're right. Excellent point. Terrific, Nate, about the Bennett and Barkov defensive capabilities. They are two terrific defensive forwards. There's no question about that, and they will be missed at that end of the ice. We talk about, you lose some offense. You lose a great defensive conscience as well when both of them aren't playing. All right, Ottawa, Carolina. We've got the Hurricanes minus 250 home favorites, 6.5 the total in this one. Carolina continues to just roll along nicely, play very good hockey. After the outdoor game against Washington, thought maybe a flat spot against St. Louis, but 4-1, a workmanlike, solid win at home against the Blues after that. They play Ottawa and Anaheim this weekend, 2 home games back-to-back tonight and tomorrow night. So it's not exactly like they have a look ahead, but this does kind of feel like if Carolina's going to have a flat spot, it could be tonight, or maybe it's not tonight and it's tomorrow night when they play Anaheim. We'll see, but I'd be leery in this spot with the minus 250, especially when Ottawa's playing okay right now. You look at the Senators here, the last 10 games, they're 7-3. They're actually not playing that bad. They had that 4-game win streak. They beat the Islanders, Leafs, back-to-back wins over the Habs. Then they had a loss to Edmonton, but they bounced back. They beat Calgary in overtime, the Islanders in a shootout. Then they lost to Chicago in overtime. They dummied the Blues 7-2, the struggling St. Louis Blues, as we talked about. And then on Monday afternoon, the early holiday Monday afternoon game against Boston, they hung in there. I mean, the shots were even. They only lost 3-1. Mandolese was very good in net for the Ottawa Senators once again. Kevin Mandolese, who's gotten a few good performances in net for Ottawa since he's been in there. But Mads Søgaard and Mandolese, for as well as they've played, they will defer to the returning Cam Talbot, who will be back in net tonight for the Ottawa Senators. He has not played in a long period of time. We'll see how he fares. He was not playing well before his recent injury, his lower body injury, and he hasn't played now since January the 25th. So pretty much a solid month hiatus away from the rink. So will he be rusty? Will he be will he be playing well? I'm not so sure. He wasn't playing well before his injury. Now we got to trust him to get his form back, and in his first game back after a long absence. I mean, it's a little scary to me when I look at it. I actually lean to the over a little bit here, 6.5 in this game. I'll probably have a small play on it just because I think Ottawa, when you look at their team lately, they've been able to find the back of the net. They've been trending over. Carolina, actually, the last 2 have gone under, but Washington can't score. St. Louis has fallen flat since all the trades. I think Ottawa could score, and that'll force Carolina to open up a little bit, which they obviously won't do if they have a lead. But I think Ottawa could give them a go tonight. I don't know if I have the guts to take Ottawa plus 210, but I think they're going to give Carolina a competitive game tonight. I lean over. I lean maybe in some form with Ottawa. Ottawa or draw if you want to be safer. We've talked about that as a bet sometimes with these big dogs. If you don't think they can pull it out, or maybe you're worried they lose in overtime, you could go with a Senators or draw option, which is something to consider. And that tonight is around Ottawa or draw is a plus price. It's plus 110 for Ottawa or draw. I don't mind that. I might sprinkle on that because that way if they lose in overtime or a shootout, you still cash your bet. And then in props tonight, Teravainen props over shots, Svechnikov over shots, and Svechnikov, I think, to get a goal and a point. I love betting on a player when he's going through a bad drought and he breaks through, gets off the schneid like he did against St. Louis, and now he's back on the beam. His confidence is back. Ottawa team total over. Yep, John Massey, that could get there over 2.5. That actually might be a really good way to attack it if you like Ottawa. Over 2.5 in this game, their team total. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the props, yeah, Svechnikov, Teravainen, both over shots. Svechnikov goal prop. Put Svechnikov in some kind of point prop as well. Marty Necas is only minus 140 to get a point. Sign me up for that. He's just a point-producing machine this year for the Carolina Hurricanes. And then on the Ottawa side of the equation here, Timmy Stützle, over 2.5 shots. He keeps going over the shots on goal. Keep betting it. Keeps going over. Thomas Chabot for the Ottawa Senators. He's gone over his shot prop 7 of the last 10. Claude Giroux has scored a goal in 7 of the last 10, heating up. So Claude Giroux props. If someone's going to produce for Ottawa tonight offensively, it's going to be those two guys, Giroux and Stützle, who have been absolutely outstanding lately. So their props are a good look too. I could go on, but we'll be here all night. Alex, what do you think here? Senators, Hurricanes.
Yeah, I think this could be an interesting back and forth battle. I don't know if I feel comfortable enough with taking Ottawa money line, but I think the right look might be looking at over 2.5 with the Sens. Only laying $1.05 or $1.10 there. I think they could at least get 3 goals. And like I said, even though Carolina, the style they like to play is they dictate the pace and tempo, and they want to shut you down defensively. But like I said, it hasn't always been the case with that. I think Ottawa has enough offense to where they can find 3 goals here, like you mentioned. Giroux heating up. We know DeBrincat always liable to get going and get a goal and assist every night. So I'm going to go Ottawa, team total over 2.5 minus $1.05.
Yeah, I thought Terry with the Brent Burns to get a point. See, I thought it was higher price than it is. I thought it would be around minus 170, minus 180. I'm looking at it now. It's actually minus 140 at DraftKings. It's in my range. It's playable at minus 140. So, absolutely, yeah. Brent Burns with a point in 4 straight games for the Carolina Hurricanes from the blue line. Yeah, 4 straight games with at least 1 point, and a point for Brent Burns in 8 of the last 10 games as well going into tonight, and only minus 140. Good bet there. I thought it was higher than that, which is why I didn't mention it. But now I see it's only minus 140. I will bet it at that price. What do you think here? Nate, we'll go to you here. Ottawa, Carolina.
Yeah, I don't love the price on Carolina, but I just think the way these teams play stylistically, I don't think they've played yet this season. I was just looking at it, but I think it's a bad matchup for Ottawa, right? The way Carolina plays and the spirit they have under Rod Brindamore, both defensively. I mean, they're almost robotic in some ways. They're 9-1. They haven't given up. I think it's they haven't given up more than 2 goals in 6 of their last 8 games. I'd potentially look at Carolina puck line here, but it's plus 100. So maybe I kind of just sprinkle from that. I don't love it, but I know Ottawa's playing well. But you talk about Timmy Stützle, you talk about Claude Giroux, like. It's not a style to me that works really well in playoff type games. We know Giroux has struggled in the past, and I think Carolina is a team who's on the rise. We talk so much about Boston. I mean, they only have like 10 losses or something in regulation, I think, too. So for me, I'm obviously not going to take Carolina on the money line, even regulations minus 170. But I maybe look to the puck line. I just think they're really on a tear right now, and as we're heating up towards the playoffs, I expect them to continue. And again, bad matchup for Ottawa in my mind in terms of how these teams play stylistically.
All right, there we go. Tough matchup, says Nate, for Ottawa here. Oh, I want to mention our guy, Seth Jarvis. This guy was actually in a funk. I've not – how much I like Seth Jarvis? I haven't mentioned him in a Carolina game on this show in months because of how much he was struggling. But he's starting to find ways to break out of it here. 2 of the last 3 games, he has scored a goal. He had the hat trick against Montreal. He's got 4 goals and 6 points in the last 3 games for Carolina. I think, you could look into his prop direction tonight. He's only minus 110 to get a point. I think Seth Jarvis, too, put him on the list to get a goal plus 275, like it. And how about his over shots on goal? Because I'm looking at it right now. He's gone over 2.5 shots on goal in 6 straight games. He's had 3-3-3, 3-3-4 in the last 6 games shots on goal. And do you know what Seth Jarvis's shots on goal juice is tonight with the over 2.5? I'm seeing plus 135 at DraftKings. Plus 135. Seth Jarvis over 2.5 shots on goal. He's gone over 2.5 shots in 6 straight hockey games going into tonight, and you can get a plus 135 on that on DraftKings. Put that on the card. What do you think here in this one, Jimmy? Ottawa, Carolina.
Yeah, look, guys, I look at, I saw Ottawa earlier in the week here in Boston, and you think Ottawa, you always think offense, and you guys are just listing all the offensive firepower they have. But they're playing, if you watch them lately, they're playing much more responsibly defensively, I feel like, and they've starting to pay attention to details and just more structure out there. And then you look on the opposite side, and
Jimmy, Jimmy, you there? No, we lost Jimmy for a second. We'll get Jimmy back. We'll get his.
I would actually say, you got me there?
We got you back. Yep.
Okay. I would actually say, guys, I mean, Bruins fans won't like me saying this, but in terms of a team buying into a coach's system and mentality, I don't think there's one better than the Carolina Hurricanes out there. So I'm feeling under in this game, guys. I'm liking the under 6.5. I think this is going to be a much more tightly contested, not a lot of room out there type game. Going to be hard to go through the neutral zone. And I also like the Hurricanes in the first period puck line as well.
All right, there we go. Hurricanes -0.5 in the first period on the puck line, and also the under 6.5 for Jimmy in this one. All right,
and
we'll
I'll
be back
on
for the
Seth Jarvis with you too.
Yeah,
I'll jump on the Seth Jarvis with you, man. That's a gift.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I can't believe it's plus 135 at DraftKings for him to go over 2.5 shots on goal when he's gone over that in 6 straight games. So, I mean, how do you not take advantage of that? Certainly, he's been shooting the puck a lot more, and he's going to continue to do that now that he's seen the puck go in for him, which it wasn't happening for him for weeks. And now all of a sudden, he's got 4 goals in the last 3 games and 6 points. So he's going to have even more incentive to want to shoot the puck probably tonight and moving forward. All right, that's the first half of the card. We're back to talk about the remaining 3 games on this Friday NHL card in just a second, right after we hear from Gramco.
All right, whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta 8 products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta 8 products such as vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you, and is also available at many American retailers as well. Get the best Delta 8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. If you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code Ice Guys, you get 25% off of any order, and all orders on the site that are $50 and higher are shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta 8 products today.
All right, we're back here on the Ice Guys. Montreal Canadiens, Philadelphia Flyers. We've got Philly -165 home favorites, 6 the total in this one. I'm on Montreal. I'm on the road underdog here. For me, this is a slam dunk to take. Not a slam dunk that they're going to win, but slam dunk to bet Montreal here because of the spot for Philly off the long road trip. They look like they ran out of gas against the Oilers in the third period the other night, and now you're coming back home from that trip to take on this Montreal team, which played a really solid game, beating New Jersey on the road. Not easy to do. They got a good performance from Montembeault, who we will not see tonight, though. It is Jake Allen who will be in net for the Canadiens, but he's played better lately in net for them. It's going to be Carter Hart getting the start for the Flyers. Flyers, though, bad news for them. I mean, they're already dealing with some injuries, but Travis Konechny's a big one. He's been the heartbeat of this team all year. He's been one of their best forwards, no question about that. And he has had some difficulties in staying healthy this year, and they've missed him when he hasn't played, and he's going to be out now, at least for tonight and moving forward for the Flyers. So I think when all things considered here, Montreal can be live in this game. I like them here at the +145 price. Probably is a close game. This might be a draw candidate too, but I like Montreal here to find a way to get the win. And Philly, by the way, is just 1-6 in their last 7 home games, so they've not played well on home ice lately. And Montreal's beaten them 4 of the last 5 here in Philly. Montreal's actually had a very good recent run the last few years here in Philadelphia against the Flyers. So you factor all that in. Philly not playing well enough to be a -165 favorite and coming back home off the long road trip. I like the Canadiens here, +145. I'll mention some props in just a second for this game as well. But first, we'll go to Alex. What do you think here? Habs, Flyers.
Yeah, at first I was just going to look at Habs first period +110, but now the more you talk about it, this may actually be a good spot to go full game. So I'm going to do the Ian Cameron split. I'm going to go half a full game +145 and half first period +110. It seems more of a bad spot than it is a great spot for Montreal. So it's a little dicey, but like I said, I trust in the Flyers playing just as bad as they did that end of that game against Edmonton more than I do the Canadiens kind of falling off a little bit. So I think the Habs at least get something done early, maybe throughout the entire game, but going to split that up and just make sure that I get something a little bit, in pocket with that first period. I think that has a better chance to cash, to be honest. We could see the Habs fall off a little bit, like I said, possibly a draw candidate as well. But if we at least catch the first half, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm going to also, and I don't love this, but I'm going to sprinkle a little, especially with the total now at 6 on the over, just because we've had 3 overs head-to-head with these two teams in the last 3 meetings. And it kind of feels like a spot where Philly defensively might be a little lax, not lax because they're just physically and mentally worn down coming off the trip. I could see that. And sometimes you make some defensive miscues in games like this. So over 6, I'm going to get in on that for just a little bit. What do you think here, Nate? Canadiens, Flyers.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I looked at it. I like Montreal. I don't see a big difference between these teams. You mentioned Philadelphia's struggles at home. I don't know exactly why they're favored. Both teams struggle a lot with scoring and generating offense, right? There's not really any top tier guys with some of the injuries and just the roster construction in general. I think with Konechny out, I feel more comfortable taking Montreal. I looked and I thought I had 6.5. I was going to say I love under 6.5 if you can find it. 6 probably a little riskier for me. I probably wouldn't play that, but if you can get a goal early, maybe by Montreal, I look to live under 6.5 in this game. But I'm on Montreal money line here for sure.
All right, Jimmy, by the way, just messaged me saying connections having issues, so he wants me to let everybody know though that he's passing along his best bets here. Habs and under. There you go for his best bets from this game. So he likes the Habs. He likes the under. Here in this one. I like a few props as well. Most of them on the Montreal side right now. But let's go Raphael Harvey-Pinard. This guy is now finally on the top line, and he deserves to be. He's been that good. Look at what he's done here with the Canadiens. Since January 26th, the guy has played 9 games for the Canadiens, and he has 2, 4, 5, 6 goals, and he has 9 points. He's basically a point-per-game player since becoming a prominent impact player on this team, essentially. So any props involving him, Raphael Harvey-Pinard for the Canadiens, playing with Nick Suzuki, and Josh Anderson on the top line for them tonight. So he's been good, and he's plus 310 or so to score a goal. So put a little something on that. I wouldn't talk you out of that at all. As far as the shots prop, Josh Anderson for sure. You got to look in his direction with shots on goal. It's over 2.5 at a plus price, plus 110. Josh Anderson over shots on goal for the Montreal Canadiens. He is a guy that they've got to count on for offense now with Caulfield, Slavkovsky, Brendan Gallagher, and others that have been out for them for a long period of time. And Anderson, the last 7 games, he has 5 points for the Canadiens, including a couple of goals. But more importantly, the last 5 games, 5 straight games for Josh Anderson, over 2.5 shots on goal. He's gone over that number. So, Josh Anderson over shots on goal, absolutely. And I think even the point and the goal prop are both worth a look, too, for Anderson in this game tonight. Goal prop is plus 250. Point prop is plus 130. Someone, our guy Cubano in our chat, mentioning Tyler Pitlick. He did score against New Jersey the other night. Not Tyler Pitlick, Rem Pitlick, I should say, for Montreal. And he does have 2 points in the last 3 games. So if you want to take a bargain bin shot in the prop market, you may be looking in that direction. I wouldn't say that's a terrible consideration at all. All right. LA Kings, New York Islanders. We've got the Islanders minus 135 home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. Real tough loss for the Kings. I mean, they had a 2-0 lead in the first period. Great start to the game. Devils battle back. And then Kings take the lead 3-2 in the third. And then the Devils tie it in the final minute with the extra attacker. And then the Devils win in overtime. Dougie Hamilton with the game winner. Tough loss for LA. And now you play a back-to-back on the road here against the rested New York Islanders, who have now won 3 of their last 4, beating Pittsburgh twice, beating the Jets 2-1 in a goaltending duel that was won by Ilya Sorokin over Connor Hellebuck. It will be Sorokin, by the way, in net for the New York Islanders in this game once again tonight. We don't have a goalie confirmation for LA yet, but we've got to assume it's Jonathan Quick, probably, because it was Phoenix Copley last night against New Jersey. But have they fallen so much in terms of the confidence in Jonathan Quick, who's had a really tough season, 3.49 goals against, 878 save percentage. We saw Calgary, shockingly, last night, you guys, play Dan Vladar on the second of back-to-back games. Do they go that route with Copley? So that's the only thing I'm holding up. That's the hold up for me with what I'm looking at here, because I do like this over. at 5.5. I think it can go over the total at over 5.5 minus 120. But that's only a bet that I'd feel better about if Quick's in net. If it's Copley, Sorokin, we could end up seeing something like we saw Islanders Jets, and it ends up being 3-1 or 3-2, something like that. So, but if it's Quick, I'm jumping on over 5.5. We do have to admit the Islanders do have a little bit more offense to their game now since getting Bo Horvat, and the Kings. To be honest, I think you're going to see them offensively look to be on the aggressive here after losing last night. So I like over 5.5, but I'll like it even more, obviously, if Quick is in net for this game. I'll get to the props in a bit. Alex, LA, New York Islanders.
Yeah, so I just went and automatically grabbed 5.5 over 120 this morning, and I'm glad I did because it quickly moved about 30 minutes later to 6 at even money. So I would recommend an in-game wager on the over 5.5. And I think even if it's Quick, I feel great about it. But with Copley, I still would feel good running him on the back-to-back. And let's keep in mind, as great as he's played, this is a guy who had been mostly been in the AHL, and he'd been kind of sharing the workload the last couple of years. He hasn't been the odds-on number one guy in quite some time. So for him to do that now in this tough of a stretch of the year, and with the way the Kings have played, and we've seen their defense kind of falter. They've played a lot of close games at times. I think this either way could get over 5.5. 6 is a little bit dicier, but I think we can find. I can see this easily being a 4-2 Islanders game. They get an empty net goal late, or even a 4-3 Kings game. I think if the Kings win, it's going to be even higher scoring. But I think the Islanders could do enough to get 4 goals. The Kings get 2, and there's our over.
And it's actually been, believe it or not, over series history, to the tune of 5-2 in the last 7 head-to-head meetings have gone over with the Kings and the Islanders. You wouldn't necessarily expect that, but that has indeed been the case. And the Islanders have certainly been up and down when it comes to totals, but LA 8-2 to the over in their last 10 games coming into tonight, and it's only 5.5. So, and again, I think it becomes a much higher probability this cashes if we get a Jonathan Quick confirmation tonight in net for the Kings. What do you think here in this one, Nate? Kings, Islanders.
Yeah, I think I look to draw on this one. I think these are both defensively minded teams. They're both very competitive, going to keep it close. I really like the Islanders roster. I love the move they made. I know we thought they were dead in the water, but I love the move they made with Horvat. I think they're a team that can be built for the playoffs. Obviously, I think Barzal's out for a couple weeks. It sounds like so they're missing him. I'm going to take a draw on this one if we can. And then I like the over. I probably wouldn't bet it, but I like where you guys are leaning. I think there's a lot of guys that don't need a lot of volume or space on these teams to score, right? And I don't necessarily have the data in front of me, but you look at somebody like Horvat, Brock Nelson, Kempe, Fiala, like you give these guys any space or any shots, like these things can go in. They don't need a lot of wide open hockey with the way these guys shoot the puck. I mean, Fiala and Kempe specifically, right? If you watch them play, they don't need a lot of space in the power play to take a one-timer or a quick wrist shot home. So probably lean towards the over, particularly as you mentioned if Quick plays, but I'm going to take a shot at the draw on this one and look for an overtime result.
All right, liking the draw. Again, it's draw season, as we know, and it's, there's a bunch of these games tonight that feel they could be tight. And even Ottawa, I think, has the potential to hang in there tonight with Carolina. Buffalo, Florida could be competitive. Even Minnesota, Toronto could be close. I mean, there are a bunch of games tonight on this board that are looking like they are set up to be maybe competitive, close games. So this could be a night where, there's 6 games. If you put a little something on the draw, equal amounts on each draw tonight, you could end up profitable. You were last night. So if you take that approach tonight, it could end up yielding similar results for you. All right, final game. Oh, by the way, props. My gosh, I almost skipped the props. There are a lot I like here. Horvat shooting the puck more. Overshot's not a bad look. Talked about Dobson. He flew over his shots on goal last game against the Jets. I think that's a good look. Overshots with Dobson going into this game for the Islanders. As far as the LA props go, we've got Victor Arvidsson overshots on over 2.5 shots in 5 straight games for him going into tonight against the New York Islanders. I think that's a really good look. He's been trending certainly over his shots on goal prop in recent games. Kevin Fiala has been trending over as well. And there's a lot of interesting goal assist point props tonight for LA because you've got guys that are in really good form right now at this point in time. If you look at LA's numbers, we've got 4 straight games with a point for Kopitar, 4 straight games with a goal for Anze Kopitar. And if you look at the prop prices tonight on Kopitar, he's only minus 140 to get a point, and he's upwards of plus 290 to get a goal. Okay, this is a guy that scored in 4 straight games and a point in 4 straight games for the Los Angeles Kings. So I think those are good looks here. Like I mentioned, Fiala's trended over shots. Arvidsson, Dobson, and Horvat on the Islanders side. What else here in terms of the prop mark? Oh, Dursey for the Los Angeles Kings, the blue liner, who actually was a big part of the offense for them last night against New Jersey. Sean Dursey to score a goal is a plus 750 price, and he got in. I think he scored one last night. But more importantly, his point prop is plus 170 at DraftKings. And Dursey is really starting to find his game in terms of chipping in offensively from the blue line. He has really turned it on in that regard here the last few games. Look at what he's done. He got the goal and the assist last night, and he's had now 5 straight games with a point for the LA Kings, including a 2-point game last night against New Jersey. 5 straight games with a point. He's plus 170 to get a point tonight for the LA Kings from the blue line. How about that? 5 straight games with a point. He's plus 170. How's that for a find? Sean Dursey. I think you got to look in that direction for sure tonight in this one. So, like I said, it's a good prop game on the Islanders side, certainly. Keep an eye, too, and I mentioned this guy. He's shooting the puck a lot. They don't have shots on goal props on him tonight, but he has been shooting the puck a lot in the 2 games since he's been called up to the New York Islanders. He's playing on the 3rd line. Arnaud Durando for the New York Islanders. Arnaud Durando. Durando, actually, is probably how you'd say it with the French pronunciation. But Arnaud Durando for the New York Islanders. He has been shooting the puck a lot. They don't have shot props for him, though. That's unfortunate, but that would have been a good look for sure. All right, final game, Colorado Avalanche, Winnipeg Jets, minus 110 even money, both sides, 6 the total. Really tough one because Winnipeg, I think, plays well at home. They play Colorado very well at home. Do you know they've beaten Colorado 9-1 the last 2 times combined score over the Avs? They played well against Colorado in this building. But the flip side argument is they're off a road trip. That's a tough spot. It's usually a bet against spot. Colorado's playing really well, even without Cale Makar, who's going to be out again tonight for them, it looks like, and Eric Johnson. Those 2 blue liners look like they're still going to be out for this game tonight. So we'll see if they can keep it going. Yeah, Kempe too. I forgot about that. And Kempe is always worth a look in the prop market in that last game. So if you can find Kempe to score a goal, or point prop is only minus 135. So no argument there. But back to this one, I think it's tricky from a side perspective. The total was 5.5. It actually has dropped to 5.5 from 6. I do like the over a little bit at 5.5, but I don't love it. But I like it enough to bet it small. This is going to be more of a prop game. Morrissey, shots on goal over, and point prop. I like it quite a bit. Scheifele over shots on goal for the Jets. He's been trending that way. McKinnon, you want to see something with Nathan McKinnon here. He is actually, his shots on goal is actually 4.5, but he's gone over that now in 5 straight games for the Colorado Avalanche. So I don't know what it is. The games are getting more important, but he's taken an onus on himself to fire that puck a lot at the net. So over 4.5 minus 140 with his shots prop is probably worth a look. He's trending over with assist props, but you got to put it in a parlay because it's too expensive. Minus 190 to bet it on its own. Lehkonen for the Colorado Avalanche. He is on a 4-game point streak right now. Arturi Lehkonen for the Avalanche, and only minus 128 at FanDuel to get a point tonight. So there's another prop that I'll be betting here tonight in this game. And I think that's about it. I'm not nearly as heavy on the prop board here tonight in this game as I am some of the others. Alex, what do you think here? Avalanche, Jets.
Yeah, this is the other draw that I'm really liking. I think this is going to be a close battle. This is, like I said, the perfect candidate. 2 teams, same division, both fighting for points. Like I said, Winnipeg has gotten the better of Colorado, and I think these are just 2 teams that are really going to be kind of clawing back and forth. So this is a great live game battle and a good draw bet right here. I'm not going to look at anything side or total. It's just I want to observe what's going on in game, but I do think this could go past regulation and we be able to get some next to score props and maybe even look for a live over depending on what the score is settling like. So it's a live game for me basically.
Live game for Alex here. Like I say, I'm off the side, but I do like the over a little bit now that it's dropped to 5.5. Because again, this is like the Philly game where I think the team returning home off the trip could be a little out of sorts defensively. Sometimes you're physically and you're mentally spent, and that sometimes doesn't lead to the best defensive performance you can put out there. And I remember Winnipeg came home, and I think they played Buffalo off a road trip, and they were returned home. They played Buffalo, and I remember they gave up like 5 or 6. It was a bad defensive night for them. So I think that might help the over here in this one a little bit. And how many times are you going to get Colorado at a 5.5? Not very often. What do you think here in this one, Nate? Colorado, Winnipeg.
Yeah, I like the over with you too. I think 5.5 is low, particularly, I don't think these teams are as good as they've been in the past in the power play. Colorado's 8th in the league, but obviously explosive. It takes a dip without McCarr. We know that. But I think, the types of players on these teams, and again, this sort of matchup, I know his numbers have been better. I never trust Georgiev. I just can't. I don't know. I just remembering kind of pass. And so I'm on the over 5.5 too, I think, with these two teams. A lot of potential for this to go 6.5 easily.
All right, liking the over as well as Nate here in this one. Yeah, the thing is too, when you look at the Georgiev, he has played well. As the question is, though, he started way more games, and Alex talks about this theory a lot. When you've started way more games than you have in the years past, do you have the stamina to last late in the regular season and into the playoffs and play as well? Like, his numbers are actually solid: 2.72 goals against, 917 save percentage. But can you keep that going late in the season into the playoffs when you've already hit your all-time career high number of games started in a single season? That's going to be the challenge now moving forward for Alexander Georgiev. All right, great stuff. Great show. Great to have you, Nate. You did a great job again. Jimmy Murphy, his connection cut out, but it was great to have him as always on a Friday. Alex P. Smith and everybody in the chat, 258 live viewers. Hit the like button. We appreciate it. And check out patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. We've got tons of stuff that's there for subscribers exclusively. We've got goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, daily Ice Guys show betting card, our video segments. We just posted the broadcaster rankings yesterday, 2 hours worth. So we enjoyed it. We hope you enjoy watching it as well. We've got bonus content, more coming next week and beyond. So make sure you check it out. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month.
Also, check out the Ice Guys store. The next 4 days, we got 15% off everything. And I've also brought down the price of the T-shirts and caps a couple of dollars too. So you have absolutely no reason not to jump in this weekend. Check out the Ice Guys store. That's iceguys.myspreadshop.com. Grab some merch and support the podcast.
And as you see right there, the next Ice Guys live betcast next Tuesday night, February 28th, 7 p.m. Eastern, live betting and commentary with me, Alex. We had full capacity last night. We had to send people away because the room was full. We couldn't accept more guests joining us. So it was a great turnout last Tuesday. Drinking is encouraged. It's welcomed. So make sure you have your fridges stocked for next Tuesday night. DM at Bobano on Twitter or email bobano350@gmail.com to request a spot on the betcast next Tuesday, February 28th, our next betcast starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. All right, back to wrap with best bets in just a moment, right after we hear from Manscaped. Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, our good friends at Manscaped, who are the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, courtesy of the Ice Guys. Get 20% off of any purchase and free worldwide shipping with the promo code Ice Guys. That's promo code Ice Guys, all one word, ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 400 million balls that you can help preserve with manscaped.com using the promo code Ice Guys. You get the Performance Package 4.0. It is a game changer. The Lawnmower 4.0. It takes care of this, among other things. It'll keep you trim as can be. The Lawnmower 4.0, waterproof. Same thing with the Weed Whacker, which takes care of your ear hair, nose hair. I mean, nose hair in particular. I'm getting up there in age, and nose hair is becoming definitely more of an issue. This will take care of it. It feels like someone's tickling the inside of your nostrils sometimes. It pisses the hell out of me. It bothers me. I need to take care of that shit. This will take care of it for you. The Weed Whacker makes part of the package that you get with your Manscaped purchase and the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. You also get the ball toner. You also get the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good and looking good and feeling good down in the nether regions. This package is really going to make you feel good and look good and look better, slim, trim. That's what it's all about. And manscaped.com can help you out with that. So make sure you take advantage of this. Manscaped.com. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code IceGuys at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the promo code IceGuys. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, we are back and ready to wrap it up with best bets. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, draw season is in full swing, and of the four that I really like, the one that is going to be the top of my list, it's going to be the Wild and the Maple Leafs. Plus 380 is as high as I'm seeing, so shop around for sure. Also, make sure to always get the regulation draw, never the yes/no prop on overtime. I'm going to have a full write-up about this, actually, coming up next week on Patreon, so stay tuned. But this is a Wild team desperately clinging on, needing points, needing to find this momentum and can carry it on the road. They just snapped a 5-game losing streak, getting that 2-0 shutout win last night. Let's see if they can keep that momentum rolling with Gustafsson and company. I think it's going to take a little bit longer than 60 minutes for them to possibly do that. It's going to be a good battle. Let's go Toronto, Minnesota, draw, plus 380. That's my best bet for this Friday.
There you go. I like it. The draw there, plus 380, Minnesota, Toronto for Alex B. Smith and his best bet for this Friday card. Nate Repensky, who's on with us every 2 weeks on Fridays. Great job as always. What do you think for your best bet tonight? What do you like? Oh, you're muted.
I'm muted. Rookie mistake. I actually didn't give this one out in sort of the main section on the game, but was looking at it more. Obviously, I like Montreal as a side. We mentioned that. But more the under 6.5. You can get an alternate line on this game, 125 to 130. I think I found it, and so there's a little more juice, particularly when compared to Alex's draws, right? But the offensive output of these teams, they're both I think 27th and 28th in power play percentage in the league. You have Konechny out. You have teams that just really struggle to score. Not a lot of offense throughout the lineup. I think it's going to be kind of tightly contested. So you give me under 6.5. I think you look for a 3-2, 4-2 kind of final at best in this game. Under 6.5, Montreal, Philly. And I think you can get it at about 130, minus 130.
All right, there we go. So shop around. There are books that offer alternative totals. I know it's 6. There are some books that still have 6.5, but most are down to 6 now with that game. But under 6.5, minus 130 for Montreal, Philadelphia, for Nate Repensky and his best bet. My best bet, I'm going to go with a player prop. Best bet tonight. I couldn't believe the price. At this price, I think it's best bet worthy. Seth Jarvis, Carolina Hurricanes, over 2.5 shots on goal, plus 135. What, for a guy that's gone over the shots on goal prop 6 straight games at that price, over 2.5 plus 135, that is a hell of a bargain. Sign me up for it. Seth Jarvis, Carolina, over 2.5 shots on goal, plus 135. That'll be my best bet here for this Friday card. That'll wrap it up for this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. It'll be Kevin Beach, former pro hockey goalie and player prop guru, joining us tomorrow on the Saturday edition of the show. So we look forward to that. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the podcast in audio form, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download it at all those platforms. For Alex B. Smith, Nate Repensky, Jimmy Murphy, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Friday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll see you tomorrow on Saturday for the next edition of the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now.